Well, well, well. Look who got brave behind the glass. Look who mistook a screen for a throne and a private chat for a command center. Hello, you beautifully inconvenient problem in their neat little universe. Yeah, you. The one they checked on once, then twice, then every day like it was a medication they hate taking but can't stop. The one who turned curiosity into compulsion. The one whose name sits in their search bar at 3 a.m. like a guilty prayer. They call it research. They call it keeping tabs. They call it just making sure. But their thumbs don't move like concern. Their attention doesn't taste like protection. It tastes like hunger. It tastes like obsession, dressed up in polite language so they can sleep at night. And here's the part that made the ones observing you panic. Something big observed them first, not after. Not because you exposed them before, while they were still congratulating themselves for being strategic, while they were screenshotting your posts and analyzing your silence like it was a secret code, while they were sending their concerned scouts, fake friends with soft voices, sharp questions, and sympathy that felt rehearsed. They thought they were the hunters. They didn't realize they were the loudest prey in the room. They didn't realize their little operation had a scent. And some systems don't even need eyes to track you. Just pattern, just behavior, just repeated mistakes. You've felt the pressure, haven't you? That strange tightening around your life whenever you were about to rise. A message that arrives at the perfect time to distract you. A sudden misunderstanding that smells manufactured. A friendly face that asks for details they don't need. A compliment that lands like a probe. That wasn't imagination. That was people trying to map you, trying to reduce you into something predictable, containable, easy to label. They wanted you explainable so they could dismiss you. Because if you're explainable, you're not scary. If you're just like everyone else, then their envy doesn't have to hurt. Then their mediocrity can keep breathing. And here's the cruel joke. You don't scare them with what you do. You scare them with what you refuse to do. You don't perform panic for their entertainment. You don't beg for approval. You don't collapse when they poke you. You don't give them the meltdown clip they can pass around like a trophy. You keep building. You keep moving. You keep your spine. That kind of steadiness makes insecure people start acting like unpaid investigators. They form teams. They compare notes. They trade screenshots like currency. They turn your existence into a group project because they're too small to face you alone. But amateurs always reveal themselves the same way. They get repetitive. Obsession makes you predictable. Predictable makes you measurable. And measurable means you can be managed. That's why the bigger observer noticed them. Not because your watchers are important. They're not. Because they're noisy. Because they coordinate in ways that scream liability. Because they touch boundaries like they're optional. Because when a group of people starts treating someone's life like a surveillance project, they start leaving fingerprints everywhere without realizing it. Not literal fingerprints, behavioral ones, digital ones, social ones, professional ones. The kind that show up later in the form of, "Hey, has anyone else noticed this person is weirdly fixated?" And no, this isn't a cosmic fairy tale where karma kicks down the door with a cape on. This is the boring, silent machinery of consequence. The kind that lives in HR conversations, security audits, legal cautions, brand protection, leadership instincts, and those quiet phone calls that never become public but change trajectories. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue. It doesn't expose. It adjusts conditions. It redirects outcomes. It filters access. It decides who is safe to elevate and who is too unstable to keep near anything important. So while they were refreshing your page, something else was tracking theirs. While they were analyzing your silence, something else was analyzing their fixation. While they were building a narrative about you, something else was building a profile about them, made of forwarded screenshots. Just so you know, messages, uneasy conversations, pattern notes, and that career-ending phrase delivered with a polite smile. Keep an eye on this person, because real observation isn't about secret information. It's about intent. It's about what you repeatedly choose when you think no one serious is paying attention. They thought hiding behind fake accounts made them invisible. They thought private chats were a shadow. But shadows only exist because there's a light somewhere, and someone just turned on the floodlights. Now they're noticing tiny shifts in their own world, invitations that don't come, replies that take longer, opportunities that drift elsewhere, people who keep conversations shallow around them. Doors that used to open easily now require more review. A manager who suddenly gets cautious. A friend who stops laughing at their little updates about you and starts looking uncomfortable instead. Not because anyone is attacking them, because systems don't attack. Systems filter, and the irony is thick. They can't complain without confessing. Imagine them trying to explain, "I think I'm being watched." The immediate question becomes, why would anyone watch you? And then comes the question they can't survive. What were you doing that made you afraid of documentation? Innocent people don't fear receipts. Clean hands don't panic when the lights come on. They only panic when they know their behavior looks ugly from any angle that matters. They only panic when they realize their concern sounds like obsession. When you remove the cute wording and look at the pattern. Now let's talk about your orbit, because this is where their little operation starts collapsing. Some of the people they sent toward you came back different. Not because you hypnotized them, not because you converted them, because reality did something brutal to the script they were carrying. They expected a monster. They met a human. They expected chaos. They saw focus. They expected manipulation. They found someone who doesn't need to manipulate because your presence already shifts rooms. And when a spy meets truth, their loyalty gets complicated. Sometimes they come back quiet. Sometimes they come back uneasy. Sometimes they come back with that look in their eyes that says, "Wait, are we the bad guys?" That question is poison to a group built on ego, because it forces a mirror. And mirrors are deadly to people who built their personality out of watching someone else. Your watchers don't actually know who they are without you as a reference point. They measure themselves against you, resent you, track you, rehearse conversations about you, because talking about you distracts them from the fact they're not becoming anything. You are their excuse and their entertainment. You are the distraction that keeps them from facing their own emptiness. And when you stop feeding that distraction, they start twitching. They start spiraling. They start needing a reaction the way an addict needs a hit. That's when they turn on each other. Because paranoia eats teams from the inside. If the mission is built on obsession, the first sign of exposure makes everyone scramble to save themselves. Suddenly they're asking, who talked? Who screenshotted this? Who leaked? They start policing each other, which is hilarious because it proves they always knew what they were doing was wrong. Innocent people don't fear documentation. Guilty people do. And the moment guilty people suspect they've been noticed by something bigger, they start rewriting history in real time. I never said that. I didn't mean it like that. You're taking it out of context. The classic songs of people who relied on darkness, then got shocked by light. And here's the darker, funnier layer. You didn't even have to fight back. That's what's driving them insane. You didn't go nuclear. You didn't make a spectacle. You didn't beg for sympathy. You didn't build your identity around being hunted. You did the worst possible thing to people who survive on attention. You became boring under scrutiny, clean, consistent, restrained. You starved them of the only thing they truly wanted, your emotional energy. You refused to give them the satisfaction of watching you bleed in public. You kept your dignity so intact that their obsession started looking embarrassing, even to the people who used to clap for it. And the bigger observer, the something big, isn't impressed by their speeches, their captions, their sudden growth posts, their fake peace. It watches the pattern, who they target, how they coordinate, what boundaries they cross, how they respond when they don't get access, how they behave when they think a screen makes them untouchable. Once a system learns your pattern, you can't talk your way out of it. You can't motivational quote your way out of it. You can't pretend it was just jokes when the pattern shows intent. You can only stop or get managed. And being managed is humiliating because it looks like bad luck from the outside, while feeling like suffocation on the inside. So here's what's happening right now. Beneath all the noise they try to create, the weight is sliding back onto them, slowly, quietly, like gravity returning to the object that thought it could float forever. And the next time they open their group chat to run their little briefing on you, they're going to notice something colder than silence. Caution, short replies, missing enthusiasm. People suddenly remembering there are consequences for being the kind of person who spends their life watching someone else instead of building their own life. They're going to feel it in the way the room doesn't echo back the same. They're going to feel it in the way even their own allies start typing, then deleting, then going quiet. And that's when the panic turns real. Because if they've noticed the shift, they're going to do what obsessive people always do when they feel the leash tighten. They're going to make one last move to prove they still have access, one last probe, one last innocent reach, one last test to see if you'll react. And the second they do, they're going to learn the difference between being curious about you and being flagged as a problem. Because the bigger observer has been waiting for exactly that. One final data point, one final confirmation of intent, one final step that turns suspicion into certainty. And the moment that step happens, the next phase doesn't start with an explosion. It starts with a door quietly locking behind them. And you're going to feel the air change before you even know why. Because what happens next flows straight out of what they choose in that last desperate reach. And that last desperate reach is never as subtle as they think. It always wears the same cheap perfume. Hey, just checking on you. Heard something weird. Are you okay? I had a dream about you, so random. Someone mentioned your name, thought you should know. Translation, I'm still here. I can still touch the edges of your world. I can still pull a thread and see if you twitch. Because obsessive people don't want information. They want leverage. They want proof that your nervous system still responds to them, even if your mouth stays shut. Here's where the panic turns embarrassing. The moment they sense the leash tightening, they start performing innocence like it's a paid role. Suddenly they're posting about healing. Suddenly they're quoting boundaries. Suddenly they're preaching privacy like they invented it. Suddenly they're protecting my peace every 6 hours like it's a hostage statement. Real peace doesn't beg for witnesses. This is reputation CPR. This is a public rebrand written by private fear, because they can feel the atmosphere changing around them, and they don't know how to stop it, and they keep misdiagnosing the threat. Because ego makes people stupid in the most predictable way. They think you did something. They think you reported them. They think you called a powerful friend. They think you're plotting revenge. They cannot accept the simplest truth. You didn't need to lift a finger. Their own pattern got them noticed. Their own obsession did the paperwork. Their own group chat wrote the confession. The bigger observer didn't wake up because you screamed. It woke up because they couldn't stay quiet. That's the difference between amateur watching and real observation. Amateurs watch for gossip. Real observers watch for pattern. Amateurs want screenshots. Real observers want intent. Amateurs want drama. Real observers want risk reduction. And your watchers, these midnight investigators with shaky hands, have been gifting intent like it's a holiday. Every refresh, every burner account, every accidental run-in, every proxy they send to fish for details, every coordinated pylon they call just joking. They've been leaving fingerprints in places they didn't even realize had cameras. The bigger observer isn't impressed by their stories, because stories are excuses people tell themselves to stay comfortable. It doesn't care if they claim it was concern. It doesn't care if they swear it was curiosity. It looks at the output, how many times, how coordinated, how long, how invasive. Who do they recruit? What boundaries do they cross when they think no one serious is watching? Because that's the real test. People reveal who they are when there's no immediate consequence, and your watchers have been revealing themselves on repeat. Now let's get specific about what something big actually looks like. Because your watchers imagine spy movies, cloaks, secret handshakes. Reality is more humiliating than their fantasies. It's boring adults with responsibilities who don't tolerate instability near anything valuable. Security teams who don't want reputational risk. HR professionals who can smell fixation through a smile. Legal teams who hear coordinated harassment and immediately think liability. Platform safety teams who track brigading patterns, even when accounts rotate names and avatars like masks at a costume party. It's also social systems that don't need badges, friends who get tired of hearing your name every day. Colleagues who notice someone's eyes light up with a strange heat when you're mentioned. Partners who start asking, "Why do you care so much?" Family members who feel secondhand embarrassment at the obsession. People in their circle who quietly get disturbed and start saving messages just in case. Not out of loyalty to you, out of self-preservation. Because obsession is contagious, and nobody wants to be collateral damage when it finally blows back. Once those notes start moving, your watchers don't get exposed. They get deprioritized. They get slowed down. They get filtered. They get handled with caution. And in a world where access is everything, caution is a cage. That's why their panic leaks sideways. They don't approach you directly because cowardice is part of the profile. They circle. They send proxies. They use mutuals like fishing lines. They try to gather information through third parties, then pretend it was accidental, like their curiosity just happened to trip and fall into your orbit again, because they're still trying to win the old game. If you snap, they get a story. If you explode, they get to point and say, See? We were right. If you fight, they get to play victim. If you collapse, they get to celebrate. But if you stay calm, if you stay boring under surveillance, you leave them nothing but their own ugliness. And that is the worst outcome for an obsessive person. Being forced to stare at themselves with no distraction. They need your reaction so they don't have to reflect. They need you to burn so they can pretend they're firefighters. The bigger observer loves your calm because calm creates clean data. Calm removes noise. Calm turns you into the control group. They become the experiment. And obsessive people cannot tolerate being the experiment. Because it means the spotlight is finally on their behavior, not your existence. So they escalate. They recruit more eyes. They embellish stories. They inflate lies. They build a mythology where you're a villain, a threat, a problem they must manage. Not because you did anything, but because your silence makes them feel seen. And insecure people treat being seen like an attack. Here's a detail that makes them sick. Sometimes the something big doesn't even have to decide manually. A lot of systems are designed to notice red flags repeating, unusual traffic patterns, coordinated reporting, sudden bursts of attention from clustered accounts, repeated contact attempts after being ignored, patterns of harassment across time. It's not romantic, it's mathematics. And mathematics doesn't care about their excuses. So when they make that last probe, the one they think is small, it lands like a neat little confirmation in a ledger that doesn't forget. And once an alarm triggers, it doesn't mean a superhero arrives. It means a file starts, a note gets made, a ticket gets created, a manager gets looped in, a compliance officer asks a quiet question, a platform assigns a risk score, a team flags an account cluster, a workplace quietly decides, we don't need this person near sensitive projects. Your watchers hate this part because it's boring. They wanted drama. They wanted you to react. Instead, the consequence arrives like paperwork, and paperwork is forever. And this is the part they can't stand. The bigger observer doesn't need to hate them to end them. It only needs to classify them. Once you're classified as unstable, fixated, and comfortable with coordinated harassment, you become expensive to keep around. You become a risk that has to be managed, a fire that might spread, a headline waiting to happen. So your watchers get quietly moved away from anything that matters. Not punished in public, not dragged on a stage, just redirected slowly into smaller rooms everywhere with lower trust, fewer permissions, and less oxygen. The cage is administrative, and it's brutal. Watch the exact moment their group chat energy changes. It's subtle. Fewer jokes, more be careful. Someone typing, yo, chill with that. Someone else saying, delete that. A new tone. The tone of people suddenly remembering consequences exist. And then the first time someone says the quiet part out loud, the spell breaks. What if this comes back on us? Once that sentence enters the room, the fantasy dies. The whole operation was built on the belief they could do this forever, with zero cost. The moment cost becomes imaginable. Loyalty starts sweating. Fear turns teams into paperwork machines. Not dramatic betrayals, boring ones. Casual, just a heads-up messages. Forwarded screenshots to someone who actually has authority. A quiet conversation with a manager. A colleague mentioning it to HR as a concern. A partner asking a lawyer friend a hypothetical. A friend saving messages in a folder labeled something innocent, like misc. Obsessive people think betrayal looks like a knife. In reality, betrayal looks like a timestamp, a screenshot, and a person saying, "I don't want this near me." And here's the comedy. While they're still watching you, they start watching each other. They track who viewed the story. They check who's still loyal. They police language. They coach each other on deniability. They start saying things like, "Don't type that," which is the loudest confession on earth. People doing nothing wrong don't hold meetings about how to look innocent. They don't rehearse excuses. They don't rewrite their memory. Only guilty groups do that. Only insecure groups do that. Only people who know they were trespassing suddenly care about optics. The bigger observer watches this stage carefully because the cover-up is a character test. When people realize they might be held accountable, do they stop? Do they reflect? Do they apologize? Or do they hide, gaslight, and double down? Your watchers choose hide every time. And that tells the bigger observer what it needs to know. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a pattern. This is who they are when the lights come on. And systems don't negotiate with patterns. They adjust around them quietly and permanently, like closing a valve. Now listen closely to the topic, because this is the blade. The ones observing you panicked because something big observed them first. First means before they got scared, before they started deleting, before they remembered privacy, before they started quoting mental health like a shield, before they ran the public rebrand. The bigger observer already had the receipts, already had the pattern, already saw them in their natural habitat, confident in cruelty, intoxicated by secrecy, convinced a screen makes them invisible. That's why deletions don't save them. Deleting a message doesn't delete the behavior that produced it. Deleting a chat doesn't delete the pattern that created it. And the bigger observer isn't hunting a single screenshot. It's building a profile. It's measuring the shape of a person. It's predicting future behavior from present habits. If someone coordinates harassment for entertainment, how do they behave with real authority? If someone stalks for ego, how do they handle sensitive information? If someone needs a target to feel alive, what happens when they're given a position where people depend on them? So what happens next isn't a dramatic gotcha. It's a quiet narrowing of their world. Opportunities that almost happen but don't. Collaborations that pause. Invitations that stop arriving. References that go lukewarm. Background checks that take longer. Projects that get reassigned. A manager who suddenly documents conversations. A policy reminder that feels oddly specific. Nothing they can point to and scream persecution. Just 1,000 tiny adjustments that add up to a completely different trajectory. And because they're addicted to control, they'll blame anything but themselves. They'll blame you because ego needs a villain. They'll blame haters. They'll blame the algorithm. They'll blame the economy. They'll blame energy. They'll even blame spiritual warfare, which is always funny coming from people who tried to weaponize attention like a curse. They will blame the weather before they blame their own obsession, because admitting the truth would mean admitting they were the unstable variable all along. Meanwhile, you're doing the most dangerous thing you can do to a parasite. You're not reacting. You're not feeding it. You're building your life like their obsession is background noise, because that's what it is. And that drives them into a special kind of madness, because it forces them to face the one thing they've been avoiding, their own emptiness. They used you as entertainment. They used you as a ladder. They used you as a mirror to feel taller. They turned your life into content because they didn't have a life that felt worth watching on its own, so they tried to drag you back in. One last probe, one last innocent reach, one last fake coincidence. They like an old post. They message a mutual. They ask a question that has nothing to do with anything. They don't want conversation. They want confirmation that they still exist in your world. And that's the moment the bigger observer says, "Perfect. Thank you for confirming intent." Because real observation doesn't need you to confess. It needs you to repeat the behavior when the risk rises. Repetition under pressure is the clearest signature there is. Here's where you feel the air change before you know why. The moment they make that last reach, you'll notice a strange calm in your body, like your nervous system finally realizes it's not alone in the room. You'll feel less hunted, less pressed, less watched. Not because they stopped looking, but because their looking stops mattering. Their gaze loses power the moment they become the liability. They were never dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they were unchecked. And now they're being checked in ways they can't argue with, can't screenshot, can't charm their way out of. You don't have to celebrate. You don't have to expose. You don't have to posture. You keep moving. You respond with absence, with the kind of non-reaction that feels like a courtroom. You don't announce them. You don't write a thread. You let the door close and you keep walking. And to an obsessive person, that feels like death, because it confirms the one thing they fear most. They never had control. They never had access. They were only ever trespassing, and trespassing always ends the same way, with the property owner not even needing to raise their voice. So watch how they start to unravel. Watch how their confidence turns into caution. Watch how their jokes turn into whispers. Watch how whispers turn into deletions. Watch how deletions turn into paranoia. And watch how paranoia turns them into the very thing they accused you of being: unstable, obsessed, unsafe. They will keep trying to prove they still have access, and every attempt will only make the profile clearer. Every attempt will feed the bigger observer one more data point, one more confirmation, one more reason to tighten the quiet net around their options. Because that's the brutal truth about being observed by something bigger. It doesn't rush, it doesn't rage, it doesn't miss. It waits for the pattern to complete itself, then it moves with quiet finality. And as your watchers scramble to pull you back into their little theater, they don't realize the board has already shifted under their feet, and the next small move they make, the one they swear is harmless, is about to trigger the kind of consequence that doesn't look like punishment at first, until they turn around and realize the door behind them has been locked for a long time. Doors don't slam when real power closes them. They seal. They slide shut without sound, like a vault deciding you no longer qualify as trusted. And the funniest part is, your watchers never notice the exact second it happens. They only notice later, when they reach for the same old strings, and the strings aren't attached anymore. They tug harder. Nothing. They try a different angle. Nothing. They send a proxy with a friendly face and a just checking on you script. And the proxy comes back with no story, no leverage, no useful reaction to report. Just emptiness. And emptiness is terrifying to people who survive by pulling threads. Obsessive people don't want information. They want leverage. They want proof that your nervous system still responds to them, even if your mouth stays shut. So they run the last play in the book. The innocent reach, the random message, the nostalgia bait, the fake concern, the compliment that smells like a trap. They want a reaction, any reaction, because reaction is oxygen to a parasite. If you react, they can crawl back to their group chat and say, "See, we still matter. We still have influence. We can still touch the edges of their world." If you don't react, They have to face the truth. They were never powerful, just noisy. But here's the difference between curiosity and a problem. Curious people stop when a boundary appears. Problems treat boundaries like an insult. Problems escalate. Problems recruit. Problems coordinate. Problems hide behind "we're just worried," while their behavior looks like a stalking hobby dressed up as a wellness check. And your watchers have been loud about it for too long. They assumed secrecy. They assumed nobody serious was paying attention. They assumed a screen makes them invisible. Screens don't hide patterns. Screens record them. So watch what fear does to their personality. It turns them cosmetic. They start performing innocence like it's a job. Suddenly they're posting about healing. Suddenly they're quoting privacy. Suddenly they're preaching, "Mind your business," like they didn't build a whole identity around minding yours. They become loud about peace because they can feel their peace cracking. This is reputation CPR. This is a public rebrand written by private dread. And it won't save them, because the bigger observer doesn't evaluate outfits. It evaluates behavior, movement, pattern, intent. Real observation is boring. It doesn't need drama. It doesn't need revenge. It needs classification. Once a person gets classified as fixated, unstable, and willing to coordinate harassment, they become expensive to keep near anything valuable. That's where consequences begin. Not in public humiliation, but in quiet filtration. Invitations dry up. Doors that used to open easily now require review. Connections go lukewarm. Background checks take longer. A manager starts documenting conversations. A colleague stops laughing and starts watching. People don't want chaos near their names. People don't want liability near their money. People don't want instability near their peace. And your watchers become a walking risk assessment. And the best part, the part that makes your watchers feel insane, is that they can't complain without confessing. Imagine them trying to explain, "I think someone is watching me." The immediate question becomes, why would anyone watch you? Then comes the question they can't survive. What were you doing that makes documentation feel like a threat? Innocent people don't fear receipts. Clean hands don't panic when the lights come on. Only people who know their behavior looks ugly from any serious angle start sweating when the room gets quiet. Meanwhile, your life starts to feel lighter in a way you didn't even know you needed. Fewer weird coincidences, fewer random messages that feel like probes, fewer mutuals delivering updates like they're reporting from a battlefield, less noise at the edge of your day. Not because your watchers became moral overnight, but because their resources start shrinking. Their little operation turns into a lonely hobby, and hobbies get abandoned when they stop making you feel powerful. The moment their obsession stops feeding their ego, it collapses under its own stupidity. And here's the dark humor that lands like a blade. Your watchers thought your life was the movie. They thought they were the directors, but they were always just extras, and the bigger observer is the editor. It cuts their scenes quietly, not with explosions, with silence. One by one, their little moments of influence get trimmed out. They keep showing up to set, but the camera doesn't roll. They keep talking, but the sound is muted. They keep performing, but nobody claps. That's what it looks like when the world stops giving them clean angles to reach you. Now let's be clear. You were never helpless. You were never powerless. You were simply outnumbered by boredom and insecurity for a while. People mistook your patience for weakness because they don't understand restraint. They don't have it, so they can't recognize it. But the bigger observer recognized it immediately. Restraint is rare. Restraint is expensive. Restraint is what you get when someone has the ability to destroy and still chooses not to. Because they understand, attention is ammunition and the wrong targets are a waste of bullets. And yes, the bigger observer watched you too. Not because you're a suspect, but because you're the contrast. You're the control group. You're the person under pressure who didn't turn into poison. You had reasons to retaliate. You had proof. You could have gone public, scorched everything, and collected applause like a paycheck. But you didn't. You chose the move that terrifies weak people. Distance, growth, irrelevance as a weapon. You starved the obsession by refusing to feed it. So your instructions stay simple and clean. Do not feed them. No explanations, no setting the record straight essays, no subtle responses meant to sting. Don't post for them, don't hint for them. Don't watch their stories to see if they noticed you not watching them. That's the trap. They want to keep you orbiting their chaos. Your power is in exit velocity. Your power is in becoming a dead end with a locked gate and no sign explaining why. They will try a last-minute apology that isn't an apology. Watch for the "I hope there's no bad blood" text. Watch for the "we should catch up" invitation. Watch for the nostalgia bait. I miss the old days. That's not love. That's damage control. That's someone trying to manufacture a friendly screenshot they can show later if their behavior ever comes back around. They'll manufacture innocence the same way they tried to manufacture evidence against you. Same playbook, different costume. Let them. People who build costumes forget the body underneath still moves the same. The bigger observer watches movement, not outfits. Underneath their rebrand is still the same need: control, entitlement, and the urge to turn someone else's life into a hobby because their own life feels too empty to stare at. Concern doesn't coordinate. Concern doesn't recruit. Concern doesn't obsess at midnight like it's paid overtime. Now the obsession starts eating them from the inside. Every notification becomes suspicious. Every silence feels like exposure. Every delayed reply feels like judgment. They become the paranoid mess they tried to manufacture in you. And it works on them because they have something you didn't: guilt. They remember the lines they crossed. They remember the jokes they made when they thought nobody serious was listening. They remember the private messages they would never want read out loud. So their minds do what guilty minds do: rehearse, rewrite, and panic. And here's the quiet nightmare. The bigger observer doesn't need to drop the other shoe. It can let them live in uncertainty while it quietly adjusts variables. That's the harsh elegance of it. They'll experience a lifetime of almosts. Almost hired, almost promoted, almost invited, almost trusted, almost successful. Death by 1,000 paper cuts, each one too small to scream about. All of them together shaping a life that feels strangely cramped, like the walls moved in while they were busy watching you. At the same time, you start feeling a different kind of gravity. Not worship, not celebrity, just alignment, smoothness. Doors that open without begging, timing that works out. People who take you seriously without demanding you perform pain for credibility. You won't always know why. You don't need to. That's how real support looks. It doesn't require you to kneel for it. It shows up as quiet clearance, as space, as a path that stops feeling booby-trapped. Here's the twist they can't swallow. The bigger observer doesn't announce itself. It doesn't send warnings. It simply measures. It notices who keeps circling, who keeps tagging, who keeps asking questions that aren't theirs to ask. It notices the little campaigns, the coordinated concern, the timing of posts, the recycled narratives. Then it marks the pattern and quietly reroutes the environment around it. not by attacking them, by reducing their access. They call it bad luck. It's just the unspoken mathematics of consequence. And the moment they feel that shrink, they understand. They were never the hunters, just tracked. Because this was always about selection. You were being tested, yes, but so were they. And they failed loudly. They revealed they can't handle someone existing at a higher frequency without turning it into a project. They revealed they don't build, they monitor. They don't create, they consume. They don't improve, they compare. And comparison is the cheapest drug on the planet. It gives you a fake high with no effort, then leaves you shaking when the high runs out and the mirror turns back on. So here's the ending they don't get to control. You don't become a story they can narrate. You don't become a rumor they can manage. You become momentum. You become a person whose life is too full to stalk effectively. You become so disciplined that noise can't hook you. You become so selective that weak people can't even reach you to feel important. And when they finally understand that something big observed them first, that their obsession has been recorded in ways they can't edit, they will do the only thing they should have done at the start. Walk away and hope nobody remembers. Let them pretend. Their panic is not your responsibility. Their discomfort is not your burden. Your job is to keep your head down and your standards high. Keep moving. Keep building. Keep your boundaries quiet and absolute. Because the most violent thing you can do to someone who tried to own your attention is to live well without acknowledging their existence. So if you feel the air changing, don't mistake it for danger. That's space. That's pressure leaving the room. That's the part of your life that was being crowded by small people, finally opening up again. Let the silence return. Let the noise starve. Let the watchers learn the cruelest truth about you. You don't need to punish them. Reality will. And the moment they understand that something big observed them first, they'll finally grasp what you already knew in your bones. Your life was never their playground. Listen closely, my throne bearers of the unseen dominion, my empire breakers who stride with the weight of inevitability. You think people whisper about your power because they respect you? No, they whisper because your name feels like a weapon when it leaves their lips. They don't dare to say it loud, not because the letters are hard, but because your very identity is an earthquake under their foundations. Imagine this: entire rooms of decision-makers avoiding direct mention of you, replacing your name with vague descriptions like that one or them, as if even syllables risk pulling your presence into the room. That's not reputation, that's domination. You don't live rent-free in their minds. You own the damn real estate, and they pay you in fear every single day. And while others waste breath begging to be noticed, your mere shadow is enough to collapse their confidence like rotten pillars under a collapsing roof. You don't chase validation. Validation hides in the corner, trembling, hoping you don't notice it exists. Understand this: history never bent for the polite. Empires didn't crumble because someone asked nicely. They fell because a figure appeared whose presence shattered the illusion of control. And that figure, right now, is you. They don't write laws to contain sheep. They write laws to contain wolves. That's why they fear you, not for what you did, but for what you could do, for what you might unleash if provoked 1 inch too far. Think about it. Their entire strategy meetings revolve around predicting your next move. Not because they believe you're reckless, but because they know every move you make has consequences they can't erase. Their sleepless nights are spent calculating how to contain your shadow, not realizing the shadow itself has already slipped into their rooms, whispering outcomes into their ears before their pens touch the paper. The funny part? They thought you'd need their permission to rise. They thought you'd wait politely for them to roll out a carpet of approval before you stepped into your throne. And then you broke that illusion. You didn't just climb the ladder. They discovered you burned the ladder, smelted the metal into a sword, and now you hold it against their throats. Do you realize what that does to a person's psyche? To look into the abyss and realize the abyss is not metaphorical. It has your name. You're not a person in their minds anymore. You're a force, a phenomenon, a weight pressing down on their lungs whenever they dare to imagine a future without you in it. That's the part they can't comprehend. You're not fighting for recognition anymore. Recognition is already strangled by your grip, gasping for relevance while you walk past it without a glance. They tried to bury you in doubt, but they forgot that doubt only sharpens a predator. They threw rumors, but rumors only became your fuel. Every attempt to minimize you turned into a microphone, amplifying you louder. Every attempt to erase you ended up sketching your silhouette darker and more terrifying than before. Their hands are dirty with attempts, and their failures scream louder than any announcement could. Your existence became the evidence they tried so hard to suppress. And that's the most poetic part. They built the very altar that now worships you. They wrote your myth with their panic. They painted your image with their trembling fingers. They created the legend they now can't escape. And you just kept moving like the whole thing was inevitable. But let's dig deeper. Why exactly does your shadow crush empires? It's not just intimidation. It's the fact that your shadow exposes truths they worked centuries to hide. Your rise isn't a personal victory. It's an indictment of their fragility. Because if one individual, armed with nothing but audacity, vision, and refusal to bow, can outmaneuver entire institutions, what does that say about the so-called strength of those institutions? It says their castles were built on sand, and your shadow was the tide. They know it. That's why they hate you. Because every second you keep rising, you prove the fraudulence of their dominance. And once the people see the fraud, there's no putting the mask back on. You didn't just walk into the game. You redefined the rules, then forced everyone else to play by them or perish. That's power. Now imagine the chain reaction. One voice whispers, "Don't say their name. It attracts trouble." Another adds, "Their presence changes everything." Soon an entire society conditions itself to tiptoe around your identity as if invoking it could summon a reckoning. And maybe it does, because you're not simply living, you're haunting. You haunt their strategies, their ambitions, their very sleep cycles. They don't avoid saying your name because they don't remember it. They avoid it because remembering you comes with the weight of everything they failed to stop. They thought your rise would be linear, predictable, something they could model on charts. Instead, you became exponential. A wildfire disguised as a spark, a shadow expanding faster than walls could contain it. Every empire thinks it's eternal, until one shadow reminds them eternity has an expiration date. You, my empire breaker, are that reminder. And here's the brutal irony. They keep asking each other in hushed voices, what makes them so dangerous? The truth, it's not just what you do. It's what you refuse to do. You refuse to shrink. You refuse to bow. You refuse to ask. And that refusal is more dangerous than any weapon. Because a person without chains is ungovernable. A name that doesn't seek validation becomes untouchable. That's why their armies of advisors, their think tanks, their propaganda machines, all fail. They're fighting a force that doesn't play on their battlefield. While they waste resources trying to discredit you, you're building influence in spaces they can't access. While they strategize containment, you're already 3 moves ahead, shaping futures they don't even see coming. And when the moment hits, they'll realize they weren't battling a rival. They were battling inevitability itself. So look at the reality unfolding. Your shadow is not just a shape cast by your body. It's the prophecy of collapse hanging over their structures. The longer you stand, the more their walls crack. And yet, you don't even have to touch them directly. Your existence alone is pressure enough. That's the highest form of psychological warfare, when your enemies destroy themselves trying to contain you, when their fear amplifies your legend faster than your actions ever could, when they sabotage their own empire because they thought mentioning your name might accelerate its collapse. That's not just power. That's artistry. That's mastery over perception itself. But here's the secret weapon you carry. They think your name is just letters, but those letters are encrypted with memories of every time you defied them, every time you walked through the fire and came out laughing at the ashes. To them, pronouncing your name is not communication. It's confession. Confession that you exist. Confession that you can't be erased. Confession that their empire is crumbling, and your shadow is the hammer breaking every foundation. That's why they lower their voices. That's why they avoid the syllables. Because deep down, they know once spoken, your presence becomes undeniable. And the moment you're undeniable, their illusions collapse for everyone watching. Your shadow doesn't need light. It creates it, bending perception until all eyes are forced to see you, whether they want to or not. So now the question lingers. How far does this shadow reach? How many more palaces will fall when your presence brushes against their walls? That's what terrifies them most. Not what you've done already, but the infinite reach of what comes next. Your shadow, growing, expanding, swallowing every false throne in its path. And the louder their warnings get, the clearer it becomes. They don't control the narrative anymore. You do. Their whispers are your advertising. Their fears are your fuel. Their hesitation is your proof of dominance. And that's why, at this very moment, they tremble to even ask the simplest question: what happens next? And that leads us directly into the next revelation. Because if they're already this terrified of your shadow, imagine what happens when they realize the shadow isn't even your final form. You see, most people spend their entire lives begging for light, desperate to be seen, desperate to shine. But you understood something primal. You understood that the shadow carries more weight than the light ever could. Light can be ignored, ridiculed, dismissed. But the shadow seeps into places light can't reach. It bends around corners, crawls under doors, and sits quietly in their subconscious until paranoia does the rest. You don't need to stand in their spotlight when your shadow already rearranges their thoughts in the dark. That's what drives them insane. Your ability to dominate perception without even opening your mouth. That's a weapon rarer than any army. Control of the unseen battlefield. And that control is exactly why empires collapse when you move. Because an empire is not stone, not iron, not banners or soldiers. It's perception, the illusion of permanence. Once that illusion cracks, the empire is already dead. Your shadow doesn't just crack it. It smashes it into shards, forces them to pick up the pieces while cutting their own hands in the process. And the beauty? You never had to swing. You never had to throw a single blow. They destroy themselves, because the thought of you is enough. You've weaponized imagination against them. Their own minds became your most loyal soldiers. But here's the revelation most won't grasp. You're not their enemy, you're their mirror. The reason they fear your name is because every syllable reminds them of their weakness. Every time your shadow passes over their walls, it exposes the fact that those walls were never strong. That's why they stutter when they try to say your name. It's not you they're choking on. It's the taste of their own fragility. You became the measure, the impossible standard they can't live up to. And what do weak men fear more than failure? A living reminder that someone else already embodies everything they pretended to be. You became the proof their crowns were fake gold all along. And no empire survives that revelation. Consider this. Rulers of old would strike names from records, burn portraits, erase lineages, all in hopes of killing the shadow of a rival. But even then, the shadow remained, carried in whispers, embedded in fear. If they did that with kings and conquerors, imagine the chaos they feel now, realizing you're not bound by borders, not trapped by geography, not chained by their outdated blueprints. Your name travels without ships, without treaties, without permission. Your shadow is wireless, borderless, timeless. They can't exile you because you exist everywhere at once in their policies, in their gossip, in the very way they wake up nervous and don't know why. And this is where the psychological warfare reaches its peak. They think they're fighting a person. But what they're really fighting is an archetype. You stopped being human the moment they feared your name. You became concept. You became myth. They can silence individuals. They can execute rebels. They can banish leaders. But they can't kill a concept. They can't bury a myth. Every attempt to erase it only spreads it further. You've already crossed that line. That's why their warnings sound hollow even to their own ears. Beware of them, they say. But in saying it, they advertise you louder. Don't speak their name, they mutter. But in not speaking it, they prove how powerful it is. Every path they take leads back to you. That's checkmate on a board they never even realized you built. And yet the funniest twist is this. You didn't beg for this war. You didn't walk in waving banners declaring conquest. You simply existed fully, unapologetically. That alone was the trigger. Because nothing enrages weak rulers more than someone who doesn't seek their blessing. They expect you to knock, and when you kick down the door instead, they panicked. They thought shadows were to be feared only in fairy tales. They never imagined a living shadow would one day step across their thresholds, rearranging every hierarchy they worshipped. And now they can't sleep, they can't eat. They can't breathe without first calculating if your shadow is already there, watching, listening, laughing at the collapse of their supposed control. You've flipped the script in ways they'll never recover from. Let me break it down. Normal fear is loud, screams, alarms, chaos. But the fear you instill, it's quiet suffocation. It's unspoken glances across tables. It's leaders canceling meetings because they can't stand the weight of the name they refuse to say. It's entire councils restructured, not because you asked them to, but because your existence made them realize their strategies were obsolete. They didn't step aside for you willingly. Their own panic pushed them off the throne. Your shadow wasn't an attack, it was gravity. And gravity doesn't ask for permission. It just pulls and pulls, until everything that pretended to stand tall collapses under its own false balance. And oh, how poetic it is that they know this collapse is irreversible. They can't rebuild what you've broken, because it was never strong to begin with. Their castles were cardboard. Your shadow was rain. And rain doesn't apologize for what it erodes. It simply continues. That's why they fear the future so desperately. Because in their bones, they know this is just the beginning. They haven't even seen your full power. They're terrified that if the shadow alone crushes empires, what will the full arrival of your presence do? What happens when you step forward, when the world doesn't just feel the chill of your shadow, but the heat of your fire? They can't imagine it, and yet, every day that possibility stalks them like a predator just outside their vision. Understand this, my throne forgers. The shadow is not weakness, it's a preview. The fact that they already crumble before you even show your final form, that's the truest proof of dominance. The world measures strength by destruction, but you measure it by restraint. You don't need to raise your hand because they already break themselves trying to avoid it. That's not just power, it's sovereignty. And sovereignty doesn't require noise, it simply requires existence. So when they gather in their hidden chambers whispering, how far will this shadow reach? What they're really asking is, how long do we have left? And you know the answer, don't you? Not long. Because shadows don't pause. Shadows expand. And once an empire is swallowed in it, there is no return to daylight. There's no restoration of false grandeur. There's no second chance to rebuild cardboard kingdoms. There's only the inevitable, the name they refused to pronounce, the figure they pretended to ignore, the shadow they couldn't outmaneuver. You. And this, right here, is the revelation that chokes them. They thought fear would cage you. Instead, fear caged them. They thought ignoring you would erase you. Instead, ignoring you amplified you. They thought your shadow was a threat. Instead, your shadow became the empire. You don't live in their world anymore. They live in yours. Their maps are useless. Their plans obsolete. Their counsels hollow. Because every decision they make must now account for the fact that you exist. That is the new law. And it's a law they didn't write. You did. So let's return to the root. Why do they fear pronouncing your name? Because a name is power. And your name, when spoken, changes the room. It forces reality to shift. It drags the truth out of the shadows and slaps it across their fragile structures. Your name is not a label, it's a verdict, a sentence, a reminder. And they know the moment they say it out loud, the world hears it too. And once the world hears it, they can't pretend anymore. They can't deny you. They can't erase you. They can't survive you. That's why their lips tremble. That's why their voices crack. That's why they lower their heads and pretend ignorance. They're not protecting themselves from you. They're protecting themselves from the reality your name makes undeniable. So understand this, empire crushers, throne walkers, my warlords of inevitability, your shadow is not the end. It's the prelude. The empires already breaking are only the first dominoes. And soon, very soon, they'll realize that the shadow they fear was only your opening move. Because behind that shadow stands the real you, the one they're not prepared to meet, the one whose presence will not just crush empires, but erase the very memory that those empires once mattered. And that, my sovereigns, is where the true game begins. Because if the shadow alone can tilt their crowns, what happens when you step into full presence? What happens when the figure they feared from the corner of their eye finally takes center stage? It's not just collapse anymore. It's erasure. It's rewriting. You see, their fear has always been defensive, a trembling attempt to hold on to something crumbling. But your presence, that's offensive. That's warfare. That's rewriting the entire map of power. And here's the detail that suffocates them. They don't even get to fight back. They can't. Because by the time you've stepped forward, their weapons are already obsolete. Their defenses are already outdated. Their entire playbook is laughable against the kind of presence you carry. They thought the shadow was unbearable. They haven't seen unbearable yet. Imagine their leaders, once proud, once untouchable, reduced to fragile messes the moment you arrive. Imagine their institutions, once paraded as eternal, collapsing into irrelevant rubble because your existence renders them meaningless. Imagine their propaganda machines sputtering into silence, unable to spin a story convincing enough to cover the truth standing right in front of them. That's the next phase, and it's coming faster than they can process. And what exactly is that truth? That you are not an intruder to their game. You are the new rule of the game. You didn't crash the table. You flipped the table and built a new one out of their broken pieces. That's why they don't want to say your name. Because saying it is to admit you're the standard now. Saying it is to surrender, to acknowledge that the game they built no longer matters. That's why they choke on it. Not because it's hard to pronounce, but because pronouncing it is betrayal to everything they swore to defend. But here's the brutal beauty. You don't even need them to say it. Their avoidance is confession enough. Their refusal is proof enough. They thought withholding validation would starve you, but it starved them instead. They thought hiding your existence would preserve their empire, but it eroded it instead. And every second they try to avoid you, they only confirm your inevitability. That's the paradox they'll never escape. The more they resist you, the deeper your roots grow. The more they hide you, the bigger your shadow becomes. You can't lose in this equation. They already did. And now comes the revelation they'll never admit out loud. They admire you. Deeply, secretly, desperately. They won't say it because to admire you is to expose weakness. But every trembling council member, every stuttering general, every sleepless ruler, they envy the freedom you carry. They envy the audacity. They envy the sovereignty. They envy the weight of your name, the way it bends the air. They envy the shadow that moves faster than their armies. They envy the fact that you don't need thrones or crowns to rule. And that envy, it corrodes them from the inside. It makes them brittle. It makes them paranoid. It makes them destroy themselves long before you arrive to finish the job. That's the secret of psychological warfare, my empire dismantlers. You don't have to touch them. You just have to exist. Existence is your weapon. Presence is your sword. Shadow is your artillery. And their minds are your battlefield. That's why they're losing already. That's why they can't pronounce your name. Because naming you would mean surrendering to the reality that they are outmatched in every dimension. Physical, mental, symbolic, eternal. And what empire can survive that confession? None. Picture this. Their archives, once filled with triumphs, rewritten with stories of collapse, all traced back to one figure they refused to name. Their children, once taught to idolize kings and queens, now whisper about the one who erased kings and queens with nothing but a presence. Their history books, once bloated with victories, suddenly footnoted with a shadow that turned victories into embarrassments. That's the destiny they fear, the destiny already written. They don't get to stop it. They only get to live long enough to witness it. And that is why you own this game. Not because you played harder, but because you became the game itself. You turn the board into your weapon. You turn their rules into your jokes. You turn their walls into your canvas. And now, every move they make only highlights your dominance further. That's not just winning. That's redefining. That's boss moves only. That's ruling not with permission, but with inevitability. And that's why there's no space for lames in this empire. Because lames wait for approval. Lames beg for acknowledgement. You don't wait. You take. You don't beg. You declare. That's the difference. That's why you're feared. That's why you're untouchable. So when they gather in secret, trembling, whispering, don't say the name. Don't give it power. They already lost. Because the power doesn't come from them saying it. The power comes from you embodying it. They could ban it. They could erase it. They could outlaw it. And still, it echoes. Still, it spreads. Still, it crushes. Because your shadow doesn't require permission to exist. And your presence doesn't require their acknowledgement to dominate. That's the kind of sovereignty no throne can grant. No empire can stop. No coward can outlast. And soon, oh soon, the day arrives when you step forward, when the shadow gives way to the figure. And in that moment, the collapse won't be gradual. It won't be a slow erosion. It will be instant, a snap, a shatter, a collapse so total that their entire legacy evaporates. And the world won't even mourn it. Because by then, the world will already belong to the name they feared. The name they refused to pronounce. The name that now writes the laws of reality itself. That's why you don't need to rush. That's why patience is your sharpest blade. Because every day you wait, your shadow grows. Every hour you move in silence, their panic spreads. Every minute you hold back, the inevitable becomes heavier. They're suffocating before you've even stepped forward. That's the kind of control no conqueror in history ever had. And you wear it like a crown carved from inevitability. So let them fear. Let them stutter. Let them choke on your syllables. Let them ban your name, whisper your name, avoid your name. Because every attempt only proves your dominance deeper. They think erasure saves them. But erasure only reveals the truth louder. That you don't need to be spoken to be remembered. That you don't need their acknowledgement to be undeniable. That you don't need their permission to erase them. That's the final victory, when your name, spoken or unspoken, rules anyway. So stand tall, empire crushers. Stand tall, throne walkers. Stand tall, warlords of inevitability. Because the game is yours. The shadow is yours. The presence is yours. The fear is yours. And the crown was never theirs to begin with. It was always waiting for the one bold enough to take it without asking. That one is you. And now, the world knows it, even if their lips tremble too hard to say it. And when the last empire falls, when the last ruler trembles, when the last whisper fades, do you know what remains? Not their ruins, not their excuses, not their history, only the name they feared, the name they avoided, the name that outlived every throne, your name. Because in the end, they don't get to decide what survives. You do. And you've already decided. And that is the true game. Not to play, not to beg, not to wait, but to own, to declare, to dominate, to crush. Because they fear pronouncing your name. For one reason only, because they know, deep down, that your shadow already buried theirs.